from Aaron Rodgers. You do leverage. I know, of course, the leverage is that you get to tag him, and of course, he doesn't have to show up. He's proven that earlier last year, but eventually the pressure mounts, right? I mean, the guy's going to want to play. He's 37 years old. You're just going to knock off a free year there of your career just because you want to be stubborn. Like this is the team that, I mean, they invested in you over the last legend that the team had, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, have they done you a disservice not getting a free agent? Sure. Do I think that Aaron Rodgers might owe it to them a little bit? Maybe go out a little bit with some dignity here between not just yourself but you and the team. Don't end this poorly. And the team did everything they could for you last season. They got the players that you wanted, even though we all sat there going Randall Cobb. Like this is the answer to your woes over in Green Bay is a 32-year-old Randall Cobb. But I mean, they did what they were supposed to do, or what they said they were going to do for him. How much more can you give to the guy? So I think that he does owe them. He can't really do much with the money or whatever there, but owes him a year and owes him like a true year where like he comes in the offseason and he's there from beginning to end and stops toying with him. Don't do this woe is me bullshit.
Right. And I mean, I wouldn't feel too bad for a Packers organization that if they had to get in a situation to trade him, it does solve a lot of their cap issues, and they're going to get probably 3 first-round picks for him. So it's not it's not like he's leaving them high and dry in a bad. Let's just say this is not Tom Brady leaving the Bucks, because I'm sure that you've looked at the Bucks starting lineup and who they're getting back next year and who they aren't, and I think it has something to do with the fact that fucking Chad's laying on his couch right now feeling sick to his stomach.
I mean, you know what's crazy? Guys, I hate the Colts and I harp on the Colts as much as I possibly can. And I've often made fun of that organization for having 2 quarterbacks in Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck and getting 1 Super Bowl out of it, right? So this is, I mean, guys, let's be real here. I don't care how many games you win in the regular season. Are the Packers that far off from what we saw in Indy? Right, they did win a Super Bowl too, but how long ago was that? You had 2 we know Aaron Rodgers is going to be a
12 years ago, right? It's 12 years ago now.
Yeah, we know Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Andrew Luck is not going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback because he didn't have enough time, unfortunately, but he would have been had he played his career out. And we know Brett Favre already is. So we got Brett Favre and you backed it up with Aaron Rodgers, and then we make fun of Indianapolis for having Peyton Manning and backing it up with an early retirement surprise out of Andrew Luck and making fun of that organization. I think the Packers need to be made fun of a little bit here too. And I would argue that the Packers may have had some of the better rosters that Indy had. If it wasn't for some of the actions that Peyton Manning was able to do later on in his career before he got hurt, would that team be as good as they were with the roster they had? I don't know. So I think there's a little levy of blame needs to be laid here on the Packers too for what's happened the last 25 years down there in Green Bay. Granted, they got a Super Bowl, but that, like you mentioned, was a long time ago. And it's time to start ponying up here. If your window is this big, I mean, let's make it happen.
Right, and I think that what happened this year, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. What happened this year is going to really impact the way that free agency and this quarterback market is going to be shaped. Now, let's just say that they can figure this thing out with Aaron Rodgers. They extend him, save their $21 million. They find a way to get back under the cap. At that point, are you attempting to trade Jordan Love, and what can you get for that guy? He hasn't really shown anything in a game that he knows what he's doing, but clearly he was a first-round pick. He's got the pedigree. But do you try and take that pick and turn it into something that you can win with now, or do you just sit there and wait for hopefully Jordan Love one day is Aaron Rodgers to what Aaron Rodgers was to Brett Favre?
Sure. My argument here, I would say some insurance is better than no insurance, right? On damn near anything in your life. And that comes to your highest paid player on your team.
That sounds like a commercial.
Yeah. And it's going to come down to your highest paid player on your NFL team. And that's your quarterback, right? You can certainly go and trade that guy away and maybe get an asset back that you can flip for something that may help you right now. Very unlikely. I mean, he's not going to be that highly touted right now that you're going to be able to get a turnaround package, whether it be a player or a set of draft picks that you can kind of flip for something else, unless it involves a first. But let's be realistic. The kid's been in the system. He knows the system. We haven't seen him play, but he at least knows the calls. He doesn't have to walk in and learn brand new over the next 5 months what the offense may be, what the audibles may be, what does a certain player like to run, or what does a wide receiver break like on a certain route. They don't have to worry about that, right? Like if you're in a win now mentality and you are a quarterback away from losing all the time in the NFL, I'm knocking on wood over here for him. But if Aaron Rodgers goes down, is it better to have that guy who's been in the system for this many years potentially, right? And then you've also got to have, again, coming back to the insurance point, if he walks the following season, again, then you've got a guy who's had another year in this system,
Right.
right? You have another year invested and know what he's going to give back to you. And he, again, he's going to know the intricacies of that. And it's a new offensive coordinator, right? I mean, I don't think this is the time right now to start really ruffling feathers on an offense that wasn't bad this year.
Right.
Right. Backups. I mean, backboard isn't ruffling feathers very much, but I still think they play an integral part in pushing the defense that you're playing against, one, but two, being there in case something happens. Right.
Well, you got to be the guy that the starting quarterback wants in the room to game plan with and to break down film with. Now, when it comes to the Packers, they're gonna have to make a pretty big decision on Davante Adams here.
Yeah.
Now, it just doesn't seem like they can keep them both, and ultimately, in order to keep it, like, because Aaron Rodgers isn't playing under his current deal, like, there's no way that happens. So you're essentially extending him, or you're moving on from him. So, does this process impact Adams? And I think that it does, but I think it impacts him negatively more if Aaron stays as opposed to if Aaron goes. Because if he goes, you might be able to afford to find a way to make it happen. If he stays, I don't see it.
Yeah.
And then if you're Aaron Rodgers, like, are you signing up for that knowing that you don't have that guy back?
Yeah, yeah. I guess there's three angles to play here that I look at that, right? Davante Adams going to come to how much do you love Aaron Rodgers and how much do you think the window is right now? You know, you can certainly build your contract out that this year isn't a year that you're paid a lot and you're going to make it up in the following years after that, knowing that Aaron may not be there. So you are hitching yourself to the franchise and saying, I believe in the franchise beyond Aaron Rodgers, but I am willing to take that cut right now, right? But then I also got to look at Kenny Golladay got friggin' paid last year.
Absolutely.
Kenny Golladay. You know
didn't
what I mean?
Didn't score a touchdown. Didn't even score a touchdown.
That's right. And no, don't mind. He had a good year the year before, like the year that got him paid, right? But I think there's a lot of people that are going to be snake bitten. But at the same time, wide receivers get paid, man. They get paid by a team that's willing to throw money around. And this tie to Nathaniel Hackett down in Denver, there is just so many rumblings about Davante Adams going there. And he hasn't said a darn thing since Hackett got signed about wanting to stay in Green Bay. All the comments that he made about wanting to stay in Green Bay was prior to that. Does things change now that Nathaniel Hackett's down in Denver? I think it does.
Yeah. No, it definitely changes things. And, you know, like, as much as there's definitely receivers out there that can play with anybody. And I believe that Davante Adams is probably one of those guys. But when it really comes down to it, you brought up Kenny Golladay. Who did Kenny Golladay catch all of his balls from? Matthew Stafford, just won the Super Bowl with the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
You look at guys like, you know, back in the day, Mike Wallace, Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown. Now, and that's super biased, but
all Steelers, if anybody didn't realize there.
Yeah. But what it really comes down to is, like, it definitely matters who your quarterback is. So if you are Davante Adams and you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to go to Denver, like, I like Drew Lock personally, but does Davante Adams like Drew Lock? I don't know. And does he like Teddy Bridgewater? I don't think Teddy's going to be there. So you're not going to go sign somewhere if you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And unless the quarterback's going to be Aaron Rodgers there, I don't see him hitching his wagon to Denver as much as the connection makes sense. The logical connection and the thing that makes the most sense for Adams for me is the Raiders. And that's because Derek Carr was his college quarterback. He's the reason that he's in the league and he's even drafted. Derek Carr, as much as he hasn't been an amazing NFL quarterback yet, like, probably top 12 right now, top 11 active quarterbacks. But I don't think a lot of people would put a lot of stock behind the stuff that Derek Carr has done in the league. But I think you put Adams on that team, and that team looks a little bit different. They look a little bit scarier. Maybe Jacobs gets a couple open running lanes, and, you know.
Well, I mean, let's remember they lost to number one. He was not a number one yet, but he was planning to be their number one.
Oh, no doubt.
We don't
no doubt.
know to name names here, but you take number one off, and then speedster like that's coming off the team.
Yeah,
you got to replace it with some sort of aspect outside. I don't know how much cap room they have that they can really attack that. I don't know that Vegas was pretty near the last couple of years, but they could certainly have some things for sure. The Denver is a great matchup. That AFC West, I guess, is it's a team like they anywhere could certainly land for sure.
Right, and look, I mean, when it comes to free agency, there's signings that we'll never talk about that are going to be important ones. I mean, whoever lands Jesse Bates is going to end up with probably the top safety in free agency right now.
He's not going anywhere. Stop. I know you want him out of your division, but
Well, I'm just saying, like,
it'd be silly. And one of those
someone's
things
going to pay him more unless those people are going to be willing to franchise tag. Hey, there's Chad. He's alive. He is alive. But the number one thing for this offseason is going to be and always needs to be quarterback centric. And the question that I asked a few weeks ago before the Super Bowl was, if the Rams win, is this going to affect people's offseason? And now that the Rams have won, I think that it's time to start talking about how giving up a couple of first-round picks for a Super Bowl is what's going to start happening. And whether you're...
He's not even going to the Combine. You saw that, right? Les Snead and Sean McVay aren't even going to the Combine this year.
Well, why would they? They don't have any picks.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
Ultimately, when it comes down to it, like, they're not guys that are going to be active even in the free agent market, because they're just going to try and keep their guys in house. So if they can keep their guys in house, they're in good shape. But I think that it's going to spark these big deals. And as much as a Packers fan might not like it, if you're going to get 3 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers, and I guess I say this objectively, because if I was a Packers fan, I'd be pissed at myself for saying this. Like, you have to take it. Because your team that you have constructed right now is not going to win the Super Bowl. They are going to be the best team in the NFC regular season, and they are going to stumble at some point in the playoffs. And that is not me being like a troll about it. That is legitimately what has happened over the last, well, at least 3 seasons, right?
Well, history also tells us that making big splash trades for quarterbacks involving draft picks and for draft day or for big name, they don't always pan out, right? Like
in the draft for sure, but I mean, look at the last 2 big names that have come on the market. You'd be looking at Peyton Manning, who wasn't traded; he was cut, but I think that Denver took the result and was quite happy with it. And now Matthew Stafford. So maybe there's a different one. I'm not, my memory only goes towards the positives. So maybe you could tell me some of the negative ones.
Well, I just meant about like young quarterbacks. Like, there's again, it's draft capital can set you back so far. And for these teams that are on the cusp of it, if you don't get it, I mean, there's just so much to lose out of that. Like we talked about coming into the game with like the Rams game, if they lost, what do you go home and say we need to improve here? There wasn't. So the good thing they won, because God, this would be a totally different conversation in the offseason to be having. But there's just so much to be lost there. I guess there is so much to be won. I'm just a big believer in the draft and the power of the draft capital, especially on draft day, being able to maneuver. You look at teams like the Patriots moving up and down and chugging along with their draft picks, kicking them down the road when they know that good draft years are coming out. When we've seen shitty draft years, or they've just said, forget it, we'll go next year. We'll get everything we want next year.
Yeah. And there's no doubt about that. And, as this draft kind of gets closer, I think that it's not going to be as hyped as the last few drafts. I mean, it should be. I believe this one's in Vegas, and they're expecting about 900,000 people to be in Vegas for the draft.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, but when it really comes down to it, like, the quarterback market hasn't jumped up yet. I mean, we're 6 days away from the combine and the quarterback's getting out there, and then pro days are going to get started. So this thing's going to heat up a bit, and I think the name that people want to write off is Malik Willis, and he is going to be the guy that shoots up the board. I could tell you that if he's sitting there when the Steelers pick, they will definitely pick him, and if they have an opportunity to trade into the top 10 to get him, they would definitely do so. But that's just that's just me basing it on watching a little bit of him at the Senior Bowl, and then watching Mike Tomlin talk about it. I've seen this kind of stuff go down before. But what we're going to see from this draft is not necessarily that one of these guys is Patrick Mahomes, but that all of these guys are serviceable quarterbacks. And quite frankly, most of these guys need to land in the NFC, because I don't think there's a whole lot of room in the AFC for any more quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you really look at the quarterback balance in the NFL right now, who is a quarterback in the NFC that you're afraid of? I mean, Aaron Rodgers at this point, probably Russell Wilson.
Are you? I don't know. Ryan Clark made it seem like you shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Probably just based on like pedigree, but based on recent results, I don't know. Uh, I think that all the top quarterbacks in the AFC right now, the NFC really needs something to get them sparked up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just personal memories here. Whenever we get to combine season, to me that always reminds me of back when NFL Network started. It was like
Yeah.
right around that time, and I remember like still being in high school and having the time of day to go home and watch 6 hours of NFL Network and watch Rich Eisen run the 40 for the first time, and how they've evolved that year over year has been awesome. But that's what it always brings me back to, is just sitting around watching a bunch of the young guys out there running these cool drills that I'd never really seen before, and it was cool stuff, man. I really enjoy the combine.
Yeah. I mean, the combine is a little bit of fun. I'll be honest. The last couple of years, I definitely didn't watch it live. I watched one of the repeats on it just to see what comes out of it. But right now, the combines, the way that they're structured, they don't mean as much as maybe they felt like they used to. It's all about pro days now. The prospects are controlling what they're taking care of, and ultimately, you know that a team is super interested in a prospect
Mm-hmm.
if they're scheduling a second pro day with them.
I'm awfully surprised, given where his stature is in the quarterback rankings this season right now, going into the draft, that Corral is not going to throw. I am really, really surprised about that. But I don't is Pickett throwing? I don't know if he's announced that yet or not.
Well, I think Pickett will probably throw, but
Just
Corral
not
had
having his
that.
hands measured. The
Corral
weirdest things.
still is coming off of that injury, and given it was an ankle injury,
Yeah.
you just don't want to be driving off turf. When you can get back, they're going to be able to run a decent pro day at Old Miss. I don't think it's going to affect his draft stock at all.
No.
But
I still think that I think he's the best one. I think that Pickett brings you the highest upside, and I think Malik is right there with him. But I think that the downside of Malik, I don't know. He's just got a strong arm. Is that all he's going to bring? Is he just going to be, David Garrard?
well, uh, we could have fast rewinded this thing 3-4 years and talked about Josh Allen, right? He was just a strong arm guy with the athleticism of being a quarterback. And as much as you say, like, well, not you personally, as much as people would say you can't teach accuracy, apparently you can, because Josh Allen got way better at it.
Yeah. Oh,
So
and he got receivers that knew how to get under the ball too.
yeah,
Do that for sure. Yeah, well, like you mentioned, Josh Allen. We talked about it before. Malik's upside ceiling was Josh Allen, and his downside, from what people were saying, was Tyrod Taylor. So they're not bad. Those aren't bad comparisons by any means to have,
yeah,
because Taylor's been a serviceable player in the NFL for a number of years, whether it be backup or at least been on a team. So the guy's gonna have a lengthy career, hopefully, at the very least. But
yeah, and he's gonna be durable. He's a big guy, and he can take a hit. His one of his biggest knocks is he hasn't played against good enough competition, and
mm,
I mean, you can only play against who you got. And luckily, if he becomes a Steeler, he gets to play against teams like the Browns, so he doesn't have to worry about playing against strong competition. And
well, and that's where I think like Pickett is kind of reminds me of somebody like Justin Herbert. Same thing. Coming out, he's not been talked about how he didn't play a lot of good competition, but the kid's just got something about him, like that moxie. Now Herbert grew into it, because he certainly was that geeky kid when he came to the NFL that was like, "What? This is who you picked to lead your team, right? The sunshine boy over here." Especially
yeah,
when he got that goofy haircut. But he's certainly grown into his role in LA, and I think that that's what Pickett can bring to a team, is not just that upside of having the athletic ability to get outside of the pocket and make some moves, but he's also got like that enough immediate type ability too, some
right,
draw.
yeah. And when we talk about upside, we always talk about our friends over at Coolback Canada, who just give us tremendous amounts of upside on all of our picks. A couple value picks I put out today. We had the Devils -1.5 and the Cavaliers to win on the money line. I
Ooh.
said you should probably go ahead and parlay that, and it'll put you somewhere around like the plus 597. I don't really know how that's working out right now, but I haven't seen any of the scores. Vancouver coming off of a back-to-back, West Coast team coming into Jersey. How are we looking, Kalen? We all right?
Hey, I haven't looked at the scores right now, because I wanted to look up. I had read a headline, but I didn't get the chance to read the article. But the Hughes brothers, of course, are playing as the game that you just mentioned there, and they're making some sort of side bet. So I wanted to see what that had something to do.
Yeah.
Something.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, I mean, if you're looking for the value picks of the day and week, we'll just go ahead and we'll put those in our Instagram stories. If you're looking for any bonus codes for for Coolbet, definitely hit us in the DMs, or if you're making your first deposit, we can send you our promo code. It'll double your money, up to $200. So definitely worth the while. Well, Kalen continues to look for his thing there. We're going to keep talking a little bit about football. We're going to talk about a different side of football. Oh, it looks like the Cavs are up by 11 already. That's sweet. We're going to talk about the broadcasting side of football, because things have started to heat up here a little bit. And just last week, Troy Aikman went ahead and got himself to be the highest paid broadcaster in football. He's taking over Monday Night Football, which it must almost be Easter, because, like, thank you, Jesus, for making somebody actually actually worth a fucking damn on Monday Night Football, because recently Monday Night Football broadcast
It's
basically
just Booger. If you get Booger out of there, I think half the problem will be solved. I know that they moved him and everything, but
look, I mean, Louis Riddick is trying to become the Steelers GM. Brian Greasy is okay, but, like, I definitely don't want to listen to him week over week. Steve Levy, I mean, I don't got any problem with the guy, but, like, when it comes down to it, you're looking at Troy Aikman, and this could be Steve Levy and Troy Aikman in the booth. But the good news is when we turn on Monday Night Football, dun 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 dun, we're gonna hear Troy Aikman's voice rather than any of these other clowns.
And that's, thank God. A primetime show can. I don't understand. ESPN's been shit for like a few years now for a number of reasons. But how do you put that on a Monday night? That's your starting your week. I think that it ruins my week, man. Having those three guys talking.
Since they lost to Rico and Gruden, they haven't been the same.
No, 100%. I do think that Aikman. I know I kind of made some comments in the past about how he's like not like the best, or I really do like Romo. I do like Aikman. I just think that he's really drawn out sometimes. I think that he kind of slow plays some things with the right partner. If they're able, I don't think it's going to be possible, because like that Buck family is just too tied to the Fox organization. I just don't think he's going to leave it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but you get a guy like Al Michaels or even Drew Brees alongside. I think that would be a really good team together. I think, to having those guys bounce conversations back and forth off of each other.
The thing is, like, I don't think they're going to bring in Breeze, because they probably don't want two quarterbacks in the booth. But Al Michaels makes sense. Like, Al Michaels and Troy on Monday night would be awesome. Even if you looked at, I don't know, like, we talk about him all the time. Gus Johnson. Like, why is Gus Johnson not more involved in big football games? And I don't know what he did at CBS to get himself fired. I don't know what the hell. Like, this was too many years ago. I think the guy is awesome on Fox.
Watch out.
Football. Yeah, guy's awesome. And maybe if Joe Buck was to move on, which I agree with you, I think that the ties go deeper than football for Joe Buck, and that's going to be where the difficult part comes in. Joe Buck is also the voice of the World Series. So Fox still has the World Series. They're not giving that up. There's no way that Joe Buck is going to work at ESPN for Monday Night Football and Fox for the World Series. So I don't think that there's any risk of that. But
well, and his dad was on Fox too, was he not, years ago?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Top of the ties are deep. It's like, I just don't think he wants to break that bloodline.
Yeah,
there's no reason for him to.
And
this is his. It's at this point, it's his or his sports organization, really.
Yeah, you could be right about that, but I do think that the baseball thing has something to do with it, even though they're not even playing, and who the hell knows if they're going to play. We'll definitely dig into that towards the end of the show here. But Thursday Night Football is being taken over by Amazon. I don't know if everybody knows that. Like, that is a thing. This deal was apparently signed 3 years ago. Fox just lost it. So they were looking at some big names. Troy Aikman was obviously one of them, but I heard a name today that made me smile, because Kirk Herbstreit looks like he is going to be the color commentator for Thursday Night Football and Amazon. And in the same kind of context of Joe Buck leaving because Fox doesn't want to give up baseball. It seems like ESPN is in on this deal, and he is still going to be allowed to do the college games for ESPN on Saturdays, as well as he can do NFL games if ESPN chooses to put him on there, provided it doesn't conflict with that Thursday night. So I think Herb Street's about to make himself a whole shit ton of money here.
Well, I mean, he's had the opportunity to dip his toes into calling some games in the NFL before. He's done like 2 or 3 in the last like 2 or 4 years or so anyway. And
Yeah,
I've enjoyed the games that he's done. He's
yeah, he's
to
awesome.
me, he's a lot like Romo. He gives a lot of background to the game. For the folks that don't know, he's going to explain it really, really well.
All right, someone just came on and said, "Go Flyers." They
Oh
stink.
golly,
The Flyers are horrible.
Giroux's trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Sorry,
yeah,
Dave.
like
Flyers stink.
but yeah, that you what was I talking about there? Sorry, oh yeah, Herb Street. And having the opportunity to get on it and call some games. I've really enjoyed what I've seen out of him. I think this is ESPN, like the Thursday night, like them kind of doing that is like make him happy. Same idea. It's like who's the face of your college program right now? Now the old guy's gone, right? It'd be Kirk Herbstreit, right?
Yeah, it's Herb Street and Fowler calling all the big games.
That's right. And but now is it? I wouldn't even recognize the name Fowler. I would recognize Herb Street. I think most of the people that would watch on a Saturday at the bar would recognize that guy's face over his partner for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's again just make your stars happy. Let them slide and do some things here and there. Let them have some passion projects on the side or whatever it may be, and everybody's going to be a happy family. He's making himself some good money, and good for him. It's been long enough.
Yeah, I mean, right now he makes about $6 million to call college games, which is awesome. But if the current contract market looks like it's going to be anything, I mean, if this guy's going to get $15, $16 million from Amazon, plus he's going to get his $6 million from ESPN, like it's going to be a decent Christmas at the Herb Street house.
Yeah,
I think they're okay with it.
Yeah. And I think it was just because of the fact that it's Amazon, they really don't have to compete with ESPN for damn near anything else. And I think that's the only reason they kind of let that slide a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And other guys that are kind of bounced around here. Apparently, Sean, and this is all apparent because we're not actual NFL insiders. We just read what is out there and kind of chat about what's out there. But Sean McVay apparently turned down $17 million to become this. Like he turned down the Aikman deal essentially,
which is again surprising. You have to prepare yourself for 17 games plus preseason, plus potentially the playoffs, and then the Super Bowl and that grind of that. Or you can prepare for 17 games at home on your couch and fly out the day before the game and get notes prepared for you and given to you. And like it's crazy. Like when I was reading the articles about why he would leave, because I was really surprised. Like, why would this guy at the peak of his coaching career leave to go be a TV analyst? It's like, what else? For one, what else have you proved? You have nothing else to prove. He is the most sought after coaching tree probably over the last 10 years. Prior to that, I mean, the Shanahan tree is going to be there. Parcells tree is going to be there, but the most recent tree is his. There's no doubt about that. He's got the Super Bowl now, but you can make $17.5 million versus making $7 million in LA and getting taxed LA money, you know what I mean? And having to worry about a team of 53 gentlemen and more, 70 players all around, right?
Right.
And coaches and everything. I just think it'd be a pretty easy walk away, I think, when you're getting paid $15 to $18 million a year to only have to worry about just those 17 games. And that's about it.
Yeah, it's quite curious. I mean, I'm sure that the Rams offered him some kind of raise as far as what he was making. I think it would be a lot of fun, but maybe he doesn't trust himself in the booth. Maybe he thinks he would step out of line or something. I don't know. But
we know while we're on the conversation, it wasn't on your rundown here, but while we're on the conversation of coaching contracts and such, I having the chance to talk about it since he went back to the DM. Very odd. Harbaugh comes out and says this is going to be his last hurrah of trying to go to the coaching in the NFL after his interview with the Vikings, where he said he felt he was kind of getting run around here and the offer was never actually going to be there. So that's it. He's going to go to college, and that's going to be it. And then announced he gets this big old contract extension. This is amazing. He's going to be around. And next season, the buyout is about this big in comparison to the rest of the contract. So we can certainly take this opportunity again next year to dip his toes into the NFL waters. What the hell? Is just Harbaugh just being like, he's a politician talking out of the side of his mouth all the time? Just making it sound like we all knew that the contract was going to come out. Why would he say that he's going to be here for the long run? I mean, and intentionally talk to make sure he gets that small buyout next year, and then after that he's locked in.
Well, it's because the guy's a scumbag, and he always has been, always will be. He ultimately, he doesn't want to commit, but he wants his. He expects the people that are committing to his program to come in and stay there 4 years, or at least commit for their 4 years. So he wants that cute little contract extension to make it look like he's committing long term. But when somebody like yourself actually reviews it and looks at it, like, okay, well, this is absolute bullshit, and clearly the guy is looking for a job next year. Um, I fully believe that he thought he was leaving this year, or he wouldn't have given his defensive coordinator to his brother in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, that was really eye-opening when that happened.
Yeah,
Everybody was going, oh, well, I guess the NFL's going to have a Harbaugh in it again. Another one.
yeah, and it would have made sense. And there was a lot of ties to Minnesota, and there was a lot of like, I'm surprised that there wasn't a lot more steam on this whole Chicago Bears thing, given the fact that he played quarterback for them. They clearly have the same ownership group. It would have just made a lot of sense, but whatever. I mean, one thing is constant in the world, and it's what they say, death and taxes, but it's also that the Harbaughs are going to suck.
And the Browns are going to brown.
Yeah, the Browns stink also. Now, something that stands out to me, and like, you know what, this could be the same as every other year, but we're just waiting for it a little bit faster, is why has nobody used their franchise tag yet? There hasn't been a single one used.
Well, I think two reasons. One, there's no hurry to do it because the players aren't going to sign it anyway.
Yeah, but
90% of them are going to say, screw you, give me a long-term deal. So there's not really any real pressure throwing it on there. I think it's like the last, 4 or 5 days, you kind of see these tags really get thrown on players. Or, I mean, I haven't really done a real rundown of who is viable for the tag that makes a whole lot of sense right now that wouldn't argue it. You know what I mean? That like the team has leverage on a little bit.
Jesse Bates is going to be the guy that gets tagged first.
Think so?
I mean, he gets tagged, that's $12 million.
Yeah.
He's going to make more than that in free agency. So, I mean, it makes the most sense for the Bengals. And, like, look, the Bengals are a shitty organization and they mismanage their team. So maybe they won't tag him and they'll let him walk. But when I went through the list, and I did it really quickly, I didn't make a whole lot of notes on it. But when I looked at it quickly, Jesse Bates at $12 million on a 1-year deal seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, the other thing to think about too is you got a lot of teams like when there was the holdup of the salary cap over the last year, right? So there, and I know that there's going to be a decent sized boost to coming into this year, but there's a lot of contracts that have to be maneuvered here. Like a lot of teams are above the cap right now. We're floating above that cap. We're talking about Green Bay shuffling around. I think they made like $13 million in cap room over the last week, or between Aaron Jones and I can't remember who was it, the tackle that might have done that with too, adjusting his cap. But the teams, I think, are they're just having to try and get themselves into a position where it even makes sense that they can get the tag on the player and still be able to attack free agency after that.
Right.
And there's just a lot of maneuvering happening right now. Again, I think it comes down to there's no stress to get it on because 90% of those players are going to tell a team to go fuck themselves until you get me a long-term deal. I'm not going to sign it anyway.
Yeah. So we're 8 days away from the deadline on the tag. So I'm surprised that we haven't seen at least one placed, but I would imagine this week's going to be busy for that. We have the combine. Seems like 31 coaches and GMs are going to be there. The only ones that aren't are Snead and McVay, but they don't have a draft pick for the next 5 years anyway. I think that they're probably just out there partying. Sorry, Liam, there's not going to be anybody representing the Rams at the combine this year. I'm sure that really rattles your cage. Now, the other thing that comes around when it comes to franchise time, and everyone has to actively work their ass off to get under the cap here before the 16th, and that's the start of NFL free agency. Who's the surprise cut? Like who's going to get cut here that no one sees coming, or you might see it coming, like we might see it coming, but the Gen Pub people that just tune in on football on Sundays might not understand why it's happening.
You ready for it?
Yep.
Amari Cooper.
Okay. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that that's very, very, very spot on.
I think that Michael Gallup has proven enough to be a number 2 there. CeeDee Lamb is certainly a number 1. They do have okay tight ends there. Their offensive line is getting older, but they can still certainly play with them. They are a far better team with 2 running backs than just 1 running back.
Now is Cedric Wilson, who is also a free agent coming into this year, is that put him back on the roster because he was decent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you try and bring him back as a 3, or if you're him, do you even want to be the 3 there?
I mean, I think they can attack that I'm sure that he was a good player. I was just talking about keeping a player in the organization when I was talking about the Packers.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, I don't think it's not as necessary as a quarterback to worry about keeping them in the organization and learning the offense and everything. I think they can get something just as good as that player in the draft or in free agency for cheaper than he may potentially get. Keeping him on the team, I mean, I think the team needs to uh, fill out other places. They need to get younger in some areas. Their defense is pretty friggin' good, but they also had like breakout years. Can we expect Micah Parsons to do what he did year over year over year? I don't know. He's going to hit that sophomore slump next year, right? Um, so I think that they could certainly go after the defense with some of those assets or the money that they would use rather than investing into the wide receiver. I come back again. I was talking about they're better with 2 running backs. Zeke's contract isn't exactly favorable to get rid of either. There's not a lot. There's a decent amount of savings, but the penalty there is just too much versus what you're going to get. Cooper is like a 22 million cap hit this year, but you save 16 by cutting him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that does to gain $16 million. I mean, that's potentially a fairly high end corner and maybe a depth tight end or a depth wide receiver, so lots that can go around with that. And again, to come back, CeeDee Lamb is a hell of a wide receiver and can certainly be a number 1 in this league with Dak Prescott, with the offense, if they have that running game. You guys, he's better than Ryan Tannehill, but I still think there's a lot of elements in Dak Prescott's game that are similar to Tannehill in that he needs a really good running game behind him. And I think that 80% of the time Dak is a game manager.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And that one everything you said is bang on. And for cap reasons, unless he's willing to restructure or sign an extension, there's no reason that essentially Amari Cooper is not the guy you're targeting on first down. You're looking for CeeDee Lamb. That's the sexy target they want right now.
There's no shame in that, right? Giving up the draft pick that they did. They had a good few years with Amari. I mean, this is not like he's bad and he's getting cut. This is simply we need the money elsewhere, and we have a good enough team to get by with Amari pushing us over the edge.
Well, exactly, and that's exactly what it's going to come down to. And one that's going to surprise you, and that it's probably going to impact the team a little bit more than Cooper leaving Dallas. Jarvis Landry is going to get cut by the Browns. And for all the reasons that you said and more, the Browns do not need a receiver that's going to have a $16 million cap hit. They can definitely do without that. They are best when they run the ball with Chubb, run the ball with Hunt, keep Baker Mayfield from making stupid decisions. As much as Landry has been, he's been solid, and he's been solid everywhere he's gone. Jarvis Landry, to me, deserves to be on a team that has an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. So whether that team be, a Green Bay team that pulls their shit together and he takes a pay cut to go play in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, or, XXX, it doesn't really matter where he ends up. I'm just fairly certain that team is not going to be the Cleveland Browns. It wouldn't shock me if he stayed in the division and went to Cincinnati. Takes a cheaper discount to go to Cincinnati. Eventually, Tyler Boyd's going to have to move on. They're not going to pay Tyler Boyd wide receiver money, because if they did, then that means Jamar Chase is going to get how much more when his contract comes up. And they got T. Higgins there, and they got a few other guys. So maybe they try and trade Boyd for a second-round pick, and they bring in Landry at $5 million a year, something along those lines. They have a ton of money to spread around, so that would make a lot of sense. Other than that, I don't think that there's a ton of teams that are looking to hack, but even still, at this point, if you play for the New Orleans Saints, you are most likely to get cut.
Yeah, Malcolm Jenkins is gone. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and they just redid the deal for Michael Thomas, which is surprising, which means he'll be back. But at the end of the day, you're $70 million over the cap. Something's got to give. Your team's going to suck for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
is what it is.
For sure. Bobby Wagner could be another one I was reading about. I was just surprised.
He always seems to be rumored to be cut, though.
It's because he just costs so friggin' much. And everybody thinks he's going to have a fall off at some point. But, and I mean, every year they're talking about, like, is this the year that they're going to have to do their rebuild in Seattle?
Oh, boy.
It might as well do it on both sides. If you're going to get rid of your quarterback, if it happens, do you get rid of your quarterback on defense? Maybe you sunk a lot into Jamal Adams, who hasn't paid a lot off or paid a lot back.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you're going to be rebuilding, you don't need either one of those deals. Sorry, 4 sneezes in a row. Yeah,
Jeez.
I told you guys I'm not injured, but I'm definitely playing hurt today. Well, let's move on to quarterback. Seems to be the theme, though. Eh? Like we're going to continue to talk about quarterbacks. The next two topics, and then we're going to swing into a touch of baseball, and then we're gonna get out of here. But this Kyler Murray thing is pretty wild. The way that this thing all dropped today. Naturally, his agent wants him to get paid. Now, I was hearing and reading a little bit about it today. Apparently, Kyler Murray's agent is also the agent to Cliff Kingsbury. Now, Cliff Kingsbury has been rumored to be upset with the Cardinals coaching staff over, or sorry, not the coaching staff, sorry, the ownership group over not paying the coaching staff their game checks for the playoffs because it's at the owner's discretion whether he thinks they deserved it. And he believes that the coaching staff did not deserve it. So instead, Kyler Murray has decided that it's pay me $50 million or fuck off.
Mm-hmm. So
I love it.
Let's review the last quarterbacks that got a contract extension in their 4th year before going into their 5th year. Okay. They're going to sound good off the hop. Okay. So Josh Allen.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Like them both.
Great. Deshaun Watson. Can't predict the future.
I heard I mean,
can't predict what's going to happen in the future, right? And you may be on the hook for a lot of money.
Kyler Murray doesn't look like the guy that visits massage parlors, but go ahead. Keep going.
Jared Goff.
Yeah, Jared Goff. He's a richest guy in Detroit, probably.
Yeah. Carson Wentz.
Wow.
Right. And last but not least, Ryan Tannehill. So if we're going to go down that list, I mean, if we're going to have a recency bias, yeah, sure. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, it looks great to get those guys under contract earlier than later when they're just going to keep giving you years. But we've talked about it, history playing itself out here a couple times already on this show. History's telling us that that's probably not a good idea. You might want to tell that kid, hey, do what everybody else has done so far before you, pretty much in the grand scheme of things, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, this might be the smartest agent of all time, and he's probably the apprentice to Kirk Cousins' agent. This guy is saying either give us a whole bunch of guaranteed money or let us go somewhere where they will give us a whole bunch of guaranteed money. Because ultimately, his number one thing is his client. And I agree. I think that NFL players should make as much money as the league allows them to make. And Kyler Murray on any other team is probably a little bit more productive. But the second that they lost Hopkins, they don't have a proper run game as much as, James Conner had a nice little year, punched in a ton of touchdowns, didn't really post a lot of yards. If you had him in fantasy, you were happy. If you were the running backs coach, you probably wanted a little bit more out of him.
Well, if I've said it a couple times in the show too, I keep going back to some sayings that we've been using before. Oh, woe is me. Kyler, you walked away from baseball as a number 1 pick in a pitching position where it's going to be one of the highest paid positions in all of sports. Okay. You only had to work 5 days or 1 day every 5 days or 6 days in a pitching rotation.
No, he would have been a shortstop. There's no way he would have been an MLB pitcher.
Oh, okay. So not even a shortstop, they make good. The other position in the MLB that makes money, right? I just don't understand it, man. You had an opportunity either way to make money. You went to a league where you're going to be the number 1 focal point. Unfortunately, that means that when you do things like throw a really bad interception in the playoffs and then bench yourself right after that it's going to come down on you.
Yeah, you're too small. You're too small to play quarterback in the NFL.
You know what? Forget his height, Shane. Just say he's too small. Mentally, that to me was too small. You throw a shitty interception like that in a playoff game, you know the rule. Get out of the pocket. You're an athletic guy. Do something. And then you bench yourself after that, and then you delete everything off Instagram. Oh, yeah, you delete everything off Instagram, and then you have your agent put out a statement on your behalf, how it's going to take a whole lot of effort between you and the team to get to this Super Bowl that you want so bad. Oh, woe is me. Just get a little bit bigger. I'm not talking height, you punk.
Damn. All right. So Kyler Murray will not be traded to the Titans, apparently.
I saw a picture of him in the creamsicle orange today. Jesus.
Yeah. Look, I think that every single Bucks fan that decided to become a Bucks fan about 16 months ago just thinks that they're going to get the next big quarterback. Like, I'm sorry. And, I know two pretty diehard Bucks fans. They know that their organization is going to suck dick for the longest time now. And they did for the longest time before. Even the franchise itself is deciding to bring out the jerseys that they won 2 games in 6 years. So
I just don't get it.
Well, what they're doing is they're just, yeah, we suck. They're embracing the suck. They're losing a lot of guys, and the only skill position that they're bringing back is Mike Evans. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
And you lost arguably one of the best guards in the NFL.
Yeah, so it's only the fake Bucks fans that think that they're gonna get Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson or. I mean, Tom Brady, who can play football for the next 5 years, retired because he didn't want to play for his shitty organization anymore.
So what you're telling me, with Chad not being here, is the Bucks are gonna suck again, is what you're saying, eh?
Yeah, and I sent Chad the GIF right away as soon as Tom Brady was rumored to be retiring. It was from Waterboy. It was, oh no, we suck again. That's the Rob Schneider thing. So yeah, 100%, they are going to be shit. Blaine Gabbert is not the answer. Kyle Trask is not ready.
Oh, I love me some Blaine Gabbert. All the great memories I have of him in Tennessee that one year.
And I can assure you that there isn't a trade partner. Like, Russell Wilson's not like, oh my gosh, yeah, I desperately need to go play for the Bucks, who have a worse roster than where I'm at. Or like Aaron Rodgers not like, yeah, I really want to go play in an old shitty stadium because they have one receiver.
Would you have said it this way, in the harshest way that you are saying it, if Chad was on one of these little squares too?
100%. 100%. I actually talked to him about this the other day. But yeah, Chad is fully under the understanding that the Bucks are going to suck. It's too bad that they got that carrot dangled in front of them that, like, hey, we can win championships here too, because that's going to go away. The next Florida-based franchise to win a championship is likely to be like the Panthers, and they're not very good. Like, they're not going to win.
I know maybe this is this your segue into baseball, potentially talking about the Marlins losing.
Derek Jeter's Derek Jeter is sick of this bullshit negotiation. So that is a great point, and that is going to be our final point. But just a quick question: we don't need to bury and dig too deep into this. More likely to get traded in the quarterback market, Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins?
Can I put a stay? The reason why, let me give me a reason why. Okay. I think that Derek Carr has shown enough through last year with the makeshift offense they were able to throw it there and all the shit he's gone through, that I think Josh McDaniels isn't going to want to rock the boat. There's some sort of sense of security there with Derek Carr. And then on the flip side, you hear all the stories coming out about Mike Zimmer, who apparently used to bash Kirk Cousins in the meetings, talking about how he didn't give enough winning plays. He wasn't a winning enough quarterback. They canned him, right? And I don't think that it just had to do with his win-loss record. I think that, listen, we're paying a quarterback $43 or $44 million, and you're sitting there talking shit about him. That's not helping matters either at the same time, right? So I think there's a little bit of investment they've kind of like given to both players there.
Yeah, and not that I know anything from hearing it personally, but I do get a little bit of like inside Steelers information just from, like, not that I'm in Reddit groups, but similar type of thing. I do know that Derek Carr has been offered to the Steelers in a trade. So they're not going to do that trade. I'm just saying he seems like he's more likely to be traded. That's not necessarily because the Raiders are looking to rebuild. I think that it might not hurt their feelings to bring in Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams or any of these guys that are available, but that is just something that's been floated around. Now, it's time to get into baseball. You're a Red Sox fan. I'm a Jays fan. We've talked about this a long time. Overall, I would say that out of all the people that I know, I would probably be the biggest baseball fan. Not necessarily in the sense of like I know what's happening, whatever, but like I could sit down and watch any two teams. I could watch the Pirates play the Padres tomorrow in a regular season baseball game. I don't think that there's a lot of people that could do that. I just enjoy the sport in general.
Probably you and
But
Steve.
yeah, but when it comes down to it, football is always king. It's why I love that baseball playoffs are generally during the week in October, and then we get the NFL on the weekends. But this USFL, another spring league coming in. This is a league from the 80s that seemed like it's starting to pick up a little bit of steam. They've already had their draft. First overall pick was Shea Patterson, former Michigan quarterback. So you can imagine he sucks. But there is some pretty decent coaches. Like Jeff Fisher is going to coach in this league, as well as Todd Haley is going to coach in this league. This league starts on the 16th of April, as well as the XFL just got a deal with the NFL. They're going to test out some different rules. From what I can tell, it doesn't seem like the XFL is actually going to play any games till next spring. But we got the CFL that's getting a little bit more interesting, a little bit more free agents. I don't know if you guys saw it today. Martavis Bryant actually signed with the Edmonton Elks today.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So that should be fun for the CFL. I don't know if he knows the CFL rules well enough to be active, but are these spring football leagues going to be that final death blow to baseball? Because if we went back to the 1950s and we looked at like the top sports, we'd be looking at baseball has always been there. Boxing was a big one. Horse racing. At this point, like unless it's a major horse race, no one's watching it. Boxing, unless it's heavyweights
Or Jake Paul.
Yeah, with the exception of Jake Paul or when we were growing up, like Floyd Mayweather. If Floyd Mayweather or Pacquiao were fighting, odds are we're going to watch that fight. But for the most part, since Lennox Lewis retired, boxing's been shit. Now, I get concerned that not baseball as a sport is going to fall apart because there's always going to be the Mexican leagues, the leagues in Japan, Cuba. Like, there's leagues everywhere. But I think Major League Baseball is fucking up by not thing done because at this point, they're looking at two different sticking points. So you have the owners who are the privileged. They are complaining that the competitive balance tax threshold that the players are asking for is too high. Essentially, what that is the luxury tax. It's the point in your salary cap where, because there is no cap, but in your salary, if you reach 225 million, you have to pay the luxury tax, and that pays to the teams that don't go over that spending limit. Generally, you're looking at the Yankees, you're looking at the Dodgers. At points, I guess you'd be thinking the Red Sox as well. And then you have the players who are afraid that playoff expansion is going to make the regular season games mean less to them. And we're going to call them the side of entitlement. So you have privilege versus entitlement. And at this point, the only people that are losing are us. I mean, if you're a fan of baseball, you're losing out on the fact that these guys can't figure shit out on something so basic.
You're coming off of a season with a player that hasn't done what he did since Babe friggin' Ruth.
Yeah.
You had an all-star game that had an all-star show out of fans.
Yep.
For one of the first times in a long time. You need to continue with that momentum as much as possible. Now, do I think that the USFL is going to be what takes them down? I don't think so. I think the USFL is going to ride a wave for a year, and they may not even make the full season. I mean, how many leagues do we have to see that does this? The XFL, I think, will be the one that sticks around because of their agreement, because of The Rock being there to back it a little bit. But I think baseball, I think that once they get back to it, and granted Shohei is still able to do, I mean, we have to be realistic. A player is not going to be able to do what Shohei did every single given year. Right?
Never. I don't even think he'll do it again.
I think that he will be an incredible player and asset to his team or any team that he goes to. I just don't know if he's going to have the star power that he did last year. But you need to ride it right now for sure, as long as you possibly can. And all the heavy hitters that were out there. And I think it's a damn shame. Like last year, I mentioned I was getting back into baseball and I was loving it. It's things like this that will pull you away. I remember there was guys, as odd as this sounds, and I think Kirk is one of them, who haven't watched hockey since the lockout because it just happened too many times when they were kids. And once the lockout happened for them, they were like, I'll find something else. And that's when they found football or they found basketball or whatever it may have been at that time. And they had no reason to come back to hockey.
You're right. And
so
that is what's going to happen. Like, it's not going to be us that turns away from baseball. Like, I can assure you that whether they start in April, May, June, July, August, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to watch the games. But the younger fan is going to lose interest. And the younger fan in general has already started to lose interest in baseball. Soccer enrollment is way up. MLB needs to do everything in their power to make
soccer to surpassed hockey.
Well, yeah, and look, this is what's going to happen, and as long as the best people are playing the best sports, who gives a shit? I mean, it's going to be something worthwhile watching. But baseball is making a major mistake if they cannot reach this deal today, because that is going to put such a black eye on this sport. And essentially, you're looking at spring training starting in April and the actual regular season not kicking off until May. That's going to be a huge problem. Absolutely huge problem. But that's going to be tomorrow's problem, next week's problem, a month from now's problem.
The only advantage that the baseball and even hockey really has in the States down there is that you can buy a ticket for next to nothing. Even here, you can go to a Jays game here for the price of juice. You can go get a bottle of juice and pay more sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to be looking at paying $9 beers. So
yeah, expensive beers. But I mean, in that sense, that's the only way that they're able to kind of keep competitive. It's like it's one of the last few. You don't have to spend $300 on a football ticket to actually go and watch your team play. You can spend $35 and have a decent day.
Right. And look, baseball is going to do something. They're going to figure their shit out. At the end of the day, it's February 28th. Who gives a shit? This is supposed to be the first day of spring training. No one gives a shit about that.
As long as we got London Majors playing, that's all that matters.
London Majors are kicking off in May. Either way.
Giddy up.
I had some March Madness stuff, but maybe I'll save it till next week. Maybe we'll save it to next week because we're going over a little bit here. So you got any final thoughts before we sign off here, Kalen?
No, it's nice to be back. We did mention our times changing right here, right?
Yeah.
Just to remind folks of that.
Yeah, so ultimately we're going to be on here Mondays only, not Thursdays, but it's because we got some events being planned, so we're gonna shoot some different stuff and invite people to whatever we got going on. We're not gonna leak any of that information out now because we want to make sure everything's final and that Liam doesn't get mad at me when I say it. But let's sign off for today. Chad will be back next week with us, hopefully, and we'll break